Welcome to another episode of Muscle Fix Mobile Podcast. Today we have Dr. Nick Kuzmanowski, and we now have the esteemed Matt Shriver with us, who amazingly seems to have a very similar career path to Nick. He just seemed to have figured things out much earlier in life. Congratulations, Matt. So,
Thank you.
so with that said, I don't know, can you just tell us about yourself, your education, what led you to starting your own business, that process?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So pretty much before I started PT school, I pretty much knew that I didn't want to do the traditional PT model. I had knee surgery myself. I had an ACL repair, and then I had another knee surgery about a year later down the path. And it wasn't until I hired a strength and conditioning coach that really helped me get to the level I wanted to be at. The traditional 3 sets of 20 or 30 reps of leg press and leg extension just didn't do it for me. So I hired a strength and conditioning coach that helped me get essentially from the rehab, oh, you're done, to getting to, okay, you're ready to perform. And even then I wasn't fully at the level that I wanted to perform at. So I just realized there's a big gap there. I was like, okay, cool. I'm cleared from PT, but I'm not ready to do everything that my teammates are doing. So when I hired a strength and conditioning coach, I started learning more about how to actually prepare myself for those activities. And I saw this big gap there, and I was like, okay, cool. When I go to whatever I want to do, it's for me, it was between PT, chiropractic, or strength and conditioning, because I saw that there's so much potential there. And I ended up deciding on PT, and my big goal at the time was to merge the gap between rehab and performance, and to really be able to do strength and conditioning or rehabilitation in a strength and conditioning fashion. So yeah, I kind of knew ahead of time. I was like, traditional PT, not for me, but strength and conditioning plus PT, now we're talking. So I knew that was really interesting to me. And when I went into PT school, I had the idea of, I really wanted to get into online coaching or remote programming and stuff like that. So I started doing a little bit of that before I started PT school. And then I started PT school at Duke in, oh man, what year was that? I graduated last May. So I'm pretty fresh out of school. I think that was 2016 is when I started. Yeah, I think 2016 is when I started PT school. I started it at Duke after graduating from Appalachian State with a degree in exercise science, and I minored in nutrition. So it's kind of that health field. And then I started at Duke, and I studied physical therapy. And while I was there, I got really in tune with weightlifting, the snatch and clean and jerk. So when I was at Appalachian, I had started a weightlifting club. I had hosted some local competitions, and and then when I moved to Durham, which was where Duke is, I reached out to a bunch of CrossFit gyms and just said, hey, I'm going to be here for the next 2 years. I'd love the opportunity to be able to just come to your CrossFitters for free. I just wanted more experience and have the ability to impact people. So I was like, cool. So I emailed probably 5 or 10 CrossFit gyms, and one person reached out and said, hey, our barbell coach just left. We'd love for you to come in and start coaching. So started doing weightlifting coaching while I was in PT school, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I really like what we're doing here. And a lot of the stuff in a CrossFit gym setting, or just a setting like that, is I got to take what I was learning from PT school and be able to apply it to actual athletes. And I was like, ooh, that worked. That didn't work. Okay, cool. So I got to a little tinker while I was in school, which was so much fun. And then before I graduated, I started coaching, doing some remote coaching with MASH Elite. So Travis Mash, he's a weightlifting coach that's out of North Carolina, pretty close to me. And I was at the Arnold. I was competing one year, and his COO, I guess you would call her. She came up to me because I had worked for her in the past at Appalachian, and she's like, "Hey, we're looking for more online coaches. Are you interested?" It's like, heck yeah, I am, because I knew that was something that I was interested in doing. So that's kind of where my online coaching path kind of got started. So I did that as I was going through PT school. I took, I probably worked maybe 3 days a week at the CrossFit gym coaching weightlifting. And then the other days I would be in class, but really programming. I'm like, I'm paying attention, I promise. But but I was building out exercise progressions, mainly for snatch, clean and jerk. I had some power lifters and some CrossFitters who just wanted to get stronger, but that was really what I was doing. So when I was in peds and neuro and classes like that, I was like, do I want to really learn this, or do I want to work with my athletes? So I'd be sitting where the teacher couldn't see me, and I'm just like programming, okay, you're going to do this many sets of back squats at this percentage and all that stuff. So like, I was like, this is awesome. I want to keep doing this when I graduate. So went off my rotations, did all that stuff, decided to stop working with Mash Elite because my idea was I was going to create my own online training platform or company. And then at the time, I was starting to also look, I still want to do some PT stuff. So I started networking through a lot of clinical athlete. I don't know if the listeners are familiar with that, but essentially it's a forum of healthcare providers that think very strength and conditioning related, very up-to-date evidence and research. So I was looking a lot at their network of providers. And when I was not in clinic for my rotations, I would be shadowing other providers that I'm like, whatever you're doing, I want to do more of that. So I'd be shadowing a lot of them. And at the same time, I found somebody that was local to my hometown, which his name is Yves Gigi, and he works with Danny Mattei with PT Biz or PT Entrepreneur, and they provide a mastermind or coaching for those that want to do cash-based PT. So for me at the time, I was like very interested in that. So I reached out to him when I was home, and we set up a meeting where we kind of just talked about all things PT, where we were going, and yeah, we met at a Starbucks, and the meeting went well. And I kind of gave him my experience with online coaching, and he told me that they had just started a company themselves that was working with law enforcement officers remotely, and they had no experience doing any of the online coaching. And at the time, they're like, "Hey, we don't, we enjoy this, but like this isn't our main thing. We're looking for someone to take this over." So with my experience I had from coaching online with Mash Elite, I was like, yeah, very interested working part-time as a PT and then part-time doing online coaching. And I joined the team after I graduated. And since then, it's been primarily online coaching. And I've kind of gone from working 3 days a week in clinic now to 2 to 3 patients a week total. And the rest of my focus is on the online coaching and online training. So,
absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, that's a long story. I'm like,
no. We wanted to hear it go full circle. So just a quick disclaimer. This is, again, 100% Nick's jam. He's probably about as excited as a teenage girl at a pep rally. So you may be bombarded with this absolute stream of consciousness, like trying to learn more about your process. So let me get the ball rolling with that. So you got into weightlifting, which incidentally, this is the story of many people that we've run into. They seem to always have these same kind of interests and path that may be somewhat different, but they seem to see the utility of nutrition, see the utility of conventional weight training, and then apply that to their medical profession or their field of study. So that said, when you were, again, developing your coaching, how did that influence your actual PT work? Like you said, you didn't like to do 15, reps, of this. So how did that kind of develop your method, I guess?
Yeah, it was really nice to be able to take the athletes that already had a really good foundational base for movement and to be apply the principles that we learned in PT school. So, I would get there 15 minutes early or stay 15 minutes late and be like, "Hey, come over here real quick. Like, let's try this real quick." Okay, cool. Okay, that didn't work. Okay. Well, what does work? So I had me and another physical therapy student. We both actually were weightlifting coaches at the time. So he was a year above me and I was a year below. So we tag teamed the weightlifting club or weightlifting program and got to like really explore things together. So it definitely allowed the ability to coach. Like I suggest all PT students to do this, is the ability to coach or do personal training before going on rotations makes a world of difference, because you have this experience of being able to communicate with people. And yes, that's a big part of the rotations, is to learn those communication skills. But if you can start that process earlier, it's such a bigger advantage than a lot of your classmates. So for me, is like, immediately when I got to Duke, before I even started school, I was reaching out to these gyms to be able to just coach, because I knew how important the process of communication was in the rehabilitation process.
Absolutely fascinating. Nick, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, guys, light years at advance. First of all, I don't know if you know Travis Match or Match or Natch, Matt?
Mash, M-A-S-H. Yeah, Mash. Travis
He
Mash.
is, I think, from what I understand, like a U.S. Olympic coach, strength and conditioning. Like, he's the real deal. He's like one of my heroes, like podcast guys that I follow. And like, he just literally trains like literally the 1% of 1%. So literally the up and coming national U.S. powerlifters, like big boys and girls. So the fact that Matt here is linked with Travis, just goes to show you how advanced Mr. Shriver is, or Dr. Shriver. So what he saw at a young age, even in his teens, was linking personal training. Now we're a glorified personal trainer, physical therapist, combining these worlds, because physical therapy is personal training, is coaching, is communication. So this guy's blown my mind, to say the least. So the good thing is we see that there's people out there that understand this concept, and I'm glad he's sharing this with us and our audience, and just to the, I guess, general country, and in general, the power of a good physical therapist with a coach. And unfortunately, where insurance limits us in the clinic, because we treat insurance, not people, unfortunately in the clinic, it's very limiting and very not fun, not sexy. With coaching and the physical therapy or the wellness that we're offering as well, hopefully it's a lifetime and a journey and a process to achieve and optimize a human's potential, not just because they got done with 3 sets of 10 or 6 months of rehab and they're done, like Matt beautifully stated and went through personally. Had that revelation at a young age after surgery that like, I'm not good, doc. The doc says you're good. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? But orthopedic knows everything, because we don't know nothing, including about our own bodies. That's, again, very frustrating. And we hit this wall, and it's like really embarrassing, to be honest with you, as a physical therapist. And I was really embarrassed, as I've told Greg many times, to even invite my friends or patients or family members to come treat with me. They're like, oh, you're this doctor or whatever. And like, again, I had to look at insurance and limitations and not treat the human being in front of me. And it was, again, embarrassing. So fast forward a little bit to about last year when Greg and I partnered up. Greg is a near dear childhood friend of mine, and he has nothing to do with PT. He's a total desk jockey, accountant, loves weight training. As a matter of fact, Greg inspired me to get into like weight training and health and conditioning and strengthening. So the guy is just a beast in himself. And when we combine like his accounting, jack of all trades experience with what we now are calling Muscle Fix Mobile, we're traveling to our clients to do coaching and strengthening. Because yes, we are combining personal training and strengthening with our therapeutic exercise and our functional training, right? Whatever these key sexy words are of the day. At the end of the day, we're just helping human beings, right? Move better, feel better, look better. And insurance is not going to cover looking better. The reality is we're missing the boat on like 90+% of the world in the population, like the Matts, the Gregs, the me. My insurance isn't going to cover because I don't have pain. So yeah, now I don't get physical therapy. That sucks. So how do we get our hands on these people as a physical therapist or doctors of physical therapy, where we spend a lot of time and a lot of money for our education to get to these high levels, so we can put our hands on human beings and combine, again, personal training and these two tools to help these people. So what we're doing, Matt, I don't know if Greg told you a little bit about, is we're doing basically body work. Certified in a technique called Factor, which you may or may not have heard of, but if you haven't, it's a must do for you. Basically, it's a Graston, which you know Graston, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Combining that while the athlete trains or rehabs. So you're scraping, doing body work or deep tissue work, and we also implement cupping or percussion devices, and we treat our athletes and our clients as they rehab or strengthen condition. And Factor was designed for U.S. Olympic athletes. And it's actually a chiro-based modality, and I learned it through a chiropractor that created it, Dr. Greg Dorr and Dr. Tom Hyde, who was a retired U.S. Olympic powerlifter. So gotta Google it, gotta check it out. Props to them. These guys are the savants of our rehab world. So it's a must check out. And again, they're working with the who's who's, the Travis Snatches and the Olympic athletes of the U.S. So what we basically did was we combined, again, Graston or scraping with cupping, which I don't know how much you do or don't know or believe in cupping. Definitely a noteworthy thing to check out. Because at the end of the day, what I believe in, what I told Greg, and I try to share, is how do we heal without surgery, should I say, is, lo and behold, how STEM works and how fancy PT School works is blood flow. So why does coaching, why does movement work, why does strengthening work? We get blood flow to the right areas to allow the natural healing. Should I say even for a torn meniscus or a torn rotator cuff? Can that happen, Matt? Dr. Matt?
Absolutely.
Sure. So again, as a matter of fact, I had to leave the institutional clinical versions and orthopedic offices because guess what? Patients were not signing up for surgery, bad for business, bad physical therapists, because we were curing, helping with pain. And patients were saying, oh, I have full function and I have no pain. But, Dr. Matt, you have a torn ACL. Many athletes, including CrossFitters, are torn ACLs, torn meniscus. So treat the person, your client, not your MRI.
Right.
As you know, obviously, hopefully the fancy Duke taught you that.
Yes.
Just with experience, you'll learn that. So again, the power of coaching and proper communication and progressions and regressions, and taking our clients and general population through these the journey of, again, strength and conditioning. And even myself, ironically, I got into training and strengthening, like, I guess kind of seriously, maybe after PT school. Before that, I was just a party guy. So didn't really care about it, didn't appreciate the and respect our body and take care of it the way it should have been when I was young. But now I'm seeing the power of, like, combining these nutrition, physical therapy, acupuncture, all these awesome tools to holistically help these people, again, maximize and optimize. So thank you for doing that, again, especially for law enforcement, because we need more people and support for these brave men and women that do this for us. And I want to thank them for that side note, and thank you for helping them.
So Matt, you had mentioned before that you have your clients doing snatches, clean and jerks. These are like multi-movement exercises. If done incorrectly, could easily injure a person, but they're also very effective for training purposes. So with what you know from a PT perspective, like, how did you, I guess, come to the conclusion that you could combine these two worlds of, again, advanced weightlifting techniques with your actual treatment, I suppose?
Yeah. So it's really a big spectrum, right? You've got this spectrum or this line of, like, this is a rehab or injured or somebody recovering from something over here. And then on the other end of the line, you've got somebody that's really working for, like, top level performance. So where your individual or athlete or client, patient, whatever you call them, like, kind of fits on this line is that there's somewhere in between here, right? And I'm not going to say everybody's going to benefit from doing snatches and clean and jerks. Like, it's definitely a skill that requires a lot of practice and a lot of teaching. So like, I really don't teach a lot of those movements unless somebody's really passionate about those movements particular, or like really want to be able to explore power production that they can use from their body. Like, if I've got somebody and I don't have them for longer than a year, I probably won't teach them the snatch and clean and jerk. I may teach variations of the movement, but I don't necessarily need to teach those movements, because it's going to take at least probably a full year before someone's going to really feel confident with a full snatch or even a jerk, like a jerk variation. I mean, people can do hang power cleans, can do clean pulls, can do all those variations and get very similar benefits, but they don't necessarily need to do snatch and clean and jerk. You know, I've got this preference for them because it's been my sport and I've competed in the past and it's fun, but like, I don't necessarily need to put somebody through that unless they're like, I want to get better at these movements. So yeah, it's 100% impacted the way I treat people, because it's just exposed me to different movement patterns and like learning how to produce force and like use my body to generate power and move a bar up or down or whatever way. But I wouldn't say it's made me like, oh, everybody needs to do this. It's almost produced or created options for people. It's like, some people can do this, but you can also do this. And I think the more I've been exposed to different movement patterns, whether it's through weightlifting, whether it's through just like even yoga or Pilates, is that there's so many different ways you can move and express yourself. And for everybody, they're going to like to do something different. And for me, it's weightlifting, or for a lot of the athletes I coach, they enjoy doing those movements. But if I can get the same benefit from somebody who's doing box jumps and they like doing box jumps, I'm going to do what they like doing, because that's going to get them that long-term buy-in and really continue to do it. Like, if you don't like snatches and clean and jerks, but I'm like, you got to do snatches and clean and jerks. Right. After like, I don't know, the 12 weeks, they're like, I'm not doing this ever again. So it's really meeting somebody where they're at and finding the movement patterns that they really enjoy doing, and then being able to coach them in that process and expose them to more movement patterns, but using movement patterns or exercises that they really enjoy can be a big help for a lot of people.
Fascinating. So let me ask you this. So I know you do the coaching online, and I think you said you actually do your PT work online with people as well. Like, so how does that work out? Like, how can you PT someone over the internet?
Ooh, good question. So so most of my work right now is more performance coaching, but like I mentioned, it's that spectrum. It's like, where are you on that line? Like, are you injured? Are you rehabbing? Or are you trying to excel in performance? Like, it kind of all fits on this one big spectrum or line. Most of my stuff right now, I would say, is more performance related. And the reason I say that, because again, it's on a spectrum, is that I'm not dealing with a lot of rehab patients or people. I mean, everyone's in pain. Like, experiences some pain. Pain is very normal. Pain is something that we all experience on a day-to-day basis. Everyone's different of how they experience it. But the reason that you can work online with somebody who's going through that process is, so much of people's relationship with pain has to do with their interpretation of the symptoms or sensations that they're going through, right? So a lot of times, by improving the way people talk about pain or experience pain, you can change their truly experience, or what they feel of as pain, right? Like, if we dig into it, a lot of it's story work of like, okay, you have this shoulder discomfort, but maybe you interpret that discomfort as pain. But if I can work with you over a series of a few weeks to change your interpretation of that sensation as not as pain, but as tightness or discomfort or other things, a lot of times you start to change your relationship with how you experience pain. So a lot of times pain is very multifactorial, but if I can change your interpretation or relationship with your body sensations. And if you can change the way that you say, oh, this is pain. Actually, no, it's just discomfort. It's just tightness. It's just an ache. Then that changes the whole game. So a lot of remote PT or this telehealth stuff has to go with, can we really dig into people's belief systems and change those? So like we talked about earlier with like ACLs or meniscus and stuff like that, like people can have tears, can have bulging discs and have all these different symptoms, but that doesn't necessarily mean they should have pain or any of those things. I mean, some of them will be a factor that can influence in their pain experience, but it's not the reason for pain. Like, it's not black and white. If you have a torn rotator cuff or torn meniscus, you experience pain. It's one of those things that, yes, it can be a factor. I'm not going to say it's not, but that relationship that you have with your body sensations is probably one of the biggest things that you can really actually control. So being able to tell somebody or not tell, you can't just say, hey, it's in your, not in your head. That's a negative way of putting it. But some people say, oh, it's in your head. Like, no, but like being able to change that interpretation of what they're experiencing as something else as besides pain can be very beneficial for people. So yeah. That's a big part of what we work on.
Let me ask you this, and Nick, chime in any time here. Something that's come up in many of our conversations is that sometimes that tightness or stiffness is kind of like the body's warning signal potentially that there could be an issue or potential catastrophic failure down the road. And that's what Nick's whole method actually is all around, kind of working out adhesions, kind of loosening the muscles to avoid, again, having a tear in your, or something like that. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you find that, I know you're saying the person, the relationship with how they feel in their body, certainly, is a coachable thing, but at what point should they be concerned, I imagine?
Yeah. So, I mean, as all of that always, like that should always be presented with the therapeutic exercise that's going to work on their impairments. So I will say the biggest limitation we have with telehealth therapy, of course, is being able to individually assess, like, okay, are you really strong in this position? Like, I can see you move, like I can assess range of motion, some mobility. I can't passively push you through a range of motion to be able to check really what you can and can't do, but I can't test your strength. Like, I could have you go grab a pair of dumbbells. You may have 5 or 10s around and have you do curls or do some rotation stuff, but you're going to be limited in being able to really feel what everything feels like and test what is strong, what is weak. You may be able to get some of that from the subjective of asking them what they do. And like, oh yeah, I do notice that when I do this, my left side's a little weaker than my right side. Like, so you can pin some of that out, but absolutely you're going to be limited in your ability to test the subjective or to test the objective, like strength measurements, range of motion measurements. So a part of that always needs to be contributed. Like, yes, we got to talk about story and like how you interpret your sensations, but we also should work on these impairments. Like, if you're restricted in this range of motion, we need to do something that's going to address that. If you're weak, you need to do something that's going to address that. So most of the telehealth that we do or that I've been doing in the past has been like, okay, these are from past patients or somebody who will come in for initial evaluation, and then we'll move to more of a telehealth model to really make the most out of that relationship.
No, absolutely. A fascinating perspective, because our model is such that we throw some gloves, mask on Nick, poke him with a stick, test him for COVID, and send him out, basically. And this model obviously has its limitations. So it's almost like you've already transitioned to a post-COVID business model that seems to be effective, where we're kind of straddling the two to some degree. It's interesting, very interesting stuff. So that said, post-COVID, have you seen that lead to an incredible growth in your business? Like, did you see a massive increase, or it's been more slow and gradual? How has that been going?
Yeah. So with the PT stuff, most of my stuff, again, has kind of transitioned to more online performance training. So I would say it's less rehab based, more providing online health, wellness, and training for first responders. So we work with a lot of the first responders all throughout. We've got a team of about 900 athletes right currently that use our Train Heroic or daily programming. So that's been most of my priority has been managing, growing, and being able to provide value to that group. My clinical care since COVID started, I was probably seeing about 10 to 15 clients a week. And as of right now, I see about 1 to 2 clients a week. So I don't treat a lot of people anymore for PT sessions. Here in South Carolina, our clinic is operating. We're probably when COVID hit, we were probably like 20% capacity, like seeing people even remotely. It was just hard to get people in the door. Now I'd say we're closer to 80, 90%, depending on the week. So we're getting back to that level of where we want to be. I'm just personally not seeing as many people because, I'm just trying to grow that team and provide value there.
Oh, very cool. And that's another trend we've been seeing is that, for example, I'd run into a chiropractor who had been treating people for decades, and he wound up dropping his whole practice to transition more over into the whole wealth and, wellness space and nutrition and that kind of thing. And that definitely seems to be the trend. So I definitely see where you're going with that. So where in South Carolina are you based?
I'm outside of Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, I love that town. So I'm actually from the north, but I'm living in Greensboro at the moment. I've been to Charleston a couple of times.
Oh,
so
nice. North Carolina? Greensboro, North Carolina? Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been there a few times for some weightlifting meets and stuff like that. Good area.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, we probably shouldn't advertise it too much. Don't need everyone coming down and ruining the place. So that said, Nick, any thoughts on that? What do you think about this very successful COVID model over here?
I love it. It's the way of the future. Matt's sharing it. Matt's helping a lot of people, Dr. Matt. And he sees the writing on the wall in the wellness space, the strength and conditioning and coaching space. So congratulations on that. And most importantly, at the end of the day, I think why we both signed up as physical therapists is to help more people. So that's telemedicine or teleconsulting or telecoaching, whatever you want to call it. It's how we can get our knowledge and our passion and our education to help more people. So, that being said, tell us more where more people can find more about your business, your philosophy, and your approach, because I'm going to check it out myself immediately after this.
Yeah, so there's a few places you can find me. You can find my personal account. I don't do a ton on there right now. Shive_on. So you can find me there. So if you're Chive on, it's essentially a plate off that. And then the business account that I'll give you two. So I'll give you one is the physical therapy clinic that I work with, and that's Made to Move Physical Therapy. So we're a cash-based clinic that's got, as of right now, we've got 2 full-time clinicians. We've got 2 others that are kind of PRN, myself included. But we do 100% cash-based PT. We work with a lot. We started in a CrossFit gym and now have our own space. So we're expanding past that, just to being in a PT or being in a studio or CrossFit clinic and being able to grow that. So that's currently a big part of what I do. I work there. So I do a lot of digital marketing with them and help out with their stuff. And then the online law enforcement based workout programming and stuff like that, that is effective fitness training. So we primarily work with law enforcement. We work with some first responders, but our main niche is really the police officers, the cops who are out there every single day.
That's awesome. So what's the actual website? I know you gave the 2 social media handles, but
yeah. So for PT, madetomovept.com. And then if you are looking for the law enforcement stuff, you can search us at effective.fitness and you will find us there.
Awesome. We'll be checking you out. And thanks, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Any parting thoughts there, Dr. Nick?
Again, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. And thanks for being setting the bar here high for us and for PT. And kudos to Duke for producing such a superstar, Dr. Matt. And thanks again for sharing your journey, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me on. And I'm glad to be able to share a little bit of my journey. And if anybody who's listening has anything, questions for me, just again, find me at Shive_on, and I'm more than willing to answer questions and be a resource for everybody who's listening.
Absolutely awesome. We'll have links in the description. And thank you again, Matt, for coming.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you for having me.
All right. Well, have a good one.